All right, good morning class. Welcome to Advanced Algebra 1. Today is Monday, April the 27th. We're going to be looking at section 10.2. This is still carrying on data analysis. Section 10.2, measures of central tendency and dispersion of that data. It'll be found on page 665. Before I forget, this is the last two verses of the 8th chapter of Proverbs, still talking about wisdom. For whoever finds me, wisdom, finds life and receives favor from the Lord. But whoever fails to find me harms himself. And all who hate me or hate wisdom love death, meaning not life after thereafter. All right. Two terms we're going to look at today. Again today, central tendency, these are three definitions, and dispersion, we have two definitions. So for central tendency, and central tendency is when numbers tend toward the center or head toward the center is what it means. The mean, which we'll look at today, is the numerical average. It's represented by X bar. The median, and there can be different ways to get a median, but the median is we're looking at the middle number. If there is an odd number of data, you literally can count over to the very middle of the number. If there's an even number of data, which is going to be our example in just a moment, you're going to go to the middle, you're going to take the two middle numbers, sum them up, and divide by 2. So you're averaging the two middle numbers if it is an even set of data. The mode is the number that occurs the most often. There can be no mode, okay? If all the numbers just appear one time, then there is no mode. You can have one mode, meaning a number occurs more than once, but you can also have multiple modes, which will be our example today as well. Dispersion, or how things spread out. We'll look at the range, which is the difference between the greatest and least value. Difference means we're going to subtract the largest number and the smallest number, okay? And then we're going to look at mean absolute deviation. Deviation is really going to talk about how far a number is from the center, and this is going to be a mean or an average of that deviation. Standard deviations, what we're actually studying in Algebra 2, so it's a different type of deviation, but the formula is relatively similar. All right, I'm going to scoot the camera down, and let's look at an example of Fred's test scores. Okay, Fred's test scores are as follows, and we're asked to find the mean, median, and mode. So his test scores are, and this is how they occurred when he took them. He made 100 on the first test, go Fred. Made 90 on the second test, 95 on the third, 94th on the fourth. On the fifth test, he again made 100. Okay. On the sixth test, not so well. Dropped down to 80. Back up to 90, he rebounded, and at the end kind of pooped out, made an 86. So not bad scores at all. Step number 1, now to calculate the mean, it is not necessary to order our values numerically, but if you'll do that right out of the gate, from the get-go, you won't forget to do that when we are looking for the median, all right? So I went ahead and ordered them numerically from the lowest to the highest. These are the same 8 scores, 80 through 100. And I want to calculate the mean, or X bar. This is the numerical average. So you sum the values together in your calculator, if you would like, and you're going to divide by our population, our N, how many actual test scores there are. And so there's a mean average calculated of 92.375%, okay? That's a total of 739 divided by the 8 test scores. So the mean average is 92.375. This is a value that indicates the central tendency. These values from 80 to 100 centrally are headed towards this 92.375, or the numerical average. All right. Next up, median. All right. We're looking for the middle number, and I did it in red on one side and green on the other side. We are headed towards the middle, the median, just like going down the interstate. That strip of grass between the northbound and southbound of I-49 is called the median. So as we're headed towards the center, it's smack dab between 90 and 95 because this is an even set of data. So you're going to take those two values, sum them, and divide by 2 or average them. So the median for this same set of data is 92.5%, a little bit higher than the average, all right? Mode is the number that occurs the most often. There are 2 values of 90 and 2 values of 100. Those are the numbers that occur most often. Sometimes there is 1, sometimes there is none. In our case, the mode is both 90 and 100. We have 2 modes because these values occur twice. All right, going to the other board, same set of data. We're asked to calculate the range. So the range, if they're in numerical order, will be easy. Take the highest number, subtract the lowest number. There is a range of 20 from the lowest value to the highest value. That kind of makes sense, all right? What I think will be new to you, what's going to be new to you is calculating the mean absolute deviation. So these are like how far the numbers spread out from the center on average, okay, on average. So the mean absolute deviation value is calculated by taking the absolute value, that's absolute value bars, of the very first data minus the average, okay? This is x minus x bar, plus the absolute value of, here's our next test score is 86 minus x bar, absolute value of that, plus the absolute value of the third minus the average, fourth minus the average. Now these two are the same, so we could have just done this times 2, plus 95 minus the average, plus 98 minus the average. These are all absolute values, plus 100 minus the average, and this one occurs twice, so you could have done this value times 2. But I didn't. Went back, calculated each one. Remember, this is 80 minus 92, so it is a negative number. But we're taking the absolute value, which is positive. Absolute value is positive. Absolute value is positive. I have all my 8 values, x minus x bar, okay, the absolute values. Sum them. I got 47.1 divided by 8. The mean absolute deviation, or how far they go from center out on average, is approximately 5.8875. So these are the 5 things you'll have to calculate today: mean, median, mode, and range, which you're familiar with. And today you will calculate the mean absolute deviation. All right? Enjoy.